All right, here we are with Jonah Schill. Jonah, this is my first one ever in person here with all my other podcasts, all the interviews I've done with alumni, with people coaching at other schools, people in med school like yourself. Like I said, first one in person, so I'm really glad to do
Yeah.
this with you.
Happy to be here. Feels special to be in the studio.
Yeah, the studio. That's nice. All right. Like I said, we right now we're wrapping up a series with our alumni that are in med school. So you're wrapping up med school, and eventually we'll get to that too. But first question I always like to ask is how you got into wrestling. A lot of our alumni brought it up with TJ last time because he was one of them that got into it because of this reason is the clinic. So starting out for young, talked to Trey Rogers, and Trey did not do the clinic. He moved in, but you're a late bloomer. So you say you came out super late. So super interested to hear about how you got into wrestling so late.
So I actually also was involved in the clinic in the wrestling. Yeah, way back in the day, for a couple of years, and then really forgot all about wrestling for several years, and then was involved in pretty much every other sport throughout middle school and early high school. And I think where I really got into wrestling was through the summer camps.
Okay.
I was doing Raiders Express, and then also had some friends that were in wrestling and encouraged me to go for wrestling. And I think they were trying to get me out for wrestling, but said, just come
Come
check
for a
out the
good
summer
workout.
camps.
Yeah.
Good workouts, maybe stay for some of the wrestling. I say of those people, Derek Edwards was brought over.
Really?
Yeah. Because I would oftentimes grab him, pick him up, and bring him.
Yeah.
Have
Okay.
him in my ear every day, trying to get me to come out for the team. And I think Mark Fine, good friends of mine too
Yeah.
at that time.
And another
Really?
kid, I just mentioned his name a little bit ago, but Ryan Nolte, probably a decent friend of yours too, right? And he came
Yeah.
out pretty late in his
Yeah,
high school career
similar
too. So,
story to me, and I think he had a similar situation. Friends with a lot of guys who were at the team. Him nor I really had a history of wrestling, but through friends really was the biggest reason.
were you really involved in other sports during the winter, or just died off during that season and just really didn't do anything during?
No. Prior to that, in middle school, I did some cross country skiing, but by the time I got into wrestling, which was my junior year in school, prior to that, the past few winters, I'd done a lot of downhill, like triple in the park.
Yeah.
Spent like 5-6 days a week doing it.
So like
And so-
village stuff, or is that where you went?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I was at Afton, spent all my time in the train park trying to work on my tricks. Like really all I cared about. And that was honestly the biggest decision. I really like wrestling. I like all these people that are doing it, and I want a sport where I can work hard, I can train. I like the mental aspect of it. Oh, didn't really want to give up the skiing.
Yeah.
Just made the call.
So think about that too, like taking it in a different way. We got a kid right now. Say we have a kid out there that may or may not be listening to this, or a parent who may or may not be listening to this too. So a kid that is on the fence, just like you were, right? That is feeling like, oh, I'm coming out for this late. I don't think I could really do this, or I'm going to be playing catch up the whole time. I'm not going to find success. All these people are way far ahead of me. What would you say to those people that are thinking about getting into wrestling, but thinking they're jumping in a little too late?
Yeah. Really never too late. Through all my wrestling career, I definitely lagged behind most of my peers in the techniques. I wasn't super technically sound. All wrestling really requires is that you work hard. And that I think that's really what made me fall in love with it when I was in the middle of it, is that like all it takes is someone just really put their mind to it. The other thing I think that wrestling does well here at the Hastings program, and not that other sports don't, but it's a great community, a big support system.
Mhm.
And that was you're not jumping into a new sport in a foreign territory, but you're jumping into a new sport, but also there's a group of people that will catch you and help you. Honestly, that help.
Like a lot of those teams, families that you named, like the Vites and all those people, Dykman's, super supportive people that were right around you that took you in, took your family in, probably already friends with your parents already, right? Really felt like you were just joining a friends group already.
Yeah.
Rejoining group.
That's
sweet. I was going to ask you, one thing too. I know growing up, your brother was really into soccer as well and had some soccer injuries, but you were pretty into soccer as well, right?
Yeah.
One of your main sports.
Yeah, soccer was the sport I guess I did for the longest period of time. Started real young and did that one all the way through high school. I did all the sports at some point earlier. By senior year of high school, I was doing soccer in the fall, kicked for the football team, did wrestling in the winter, and then did pole vaulting in the spring.
Okay.
And prior to that, I'd done some cross country skiing, and downhill skiing. I did gymnastics actually growing up, to about halfway through middle school.
Yeah.
Competitive.
So two things then off of that, because that's the one thing you talked about where maybe technique wise, I felt, or you felt like a little behind everybody
Yeah.
else. But I always think about you wrestling like you were just a cardio machine, right? So it's just maybe a little bit behind technique, like maybe getting taken down or down in points right away. But that cardio, you were just always going to come back and you're just always in a match because of your cardio. So that's one thing I want to say about you too. What do you think about then pole vaulting? Gymnastics probably helped a ton with that and the body awareness.
Yeah, definitely. That was the only reason I could pole vault. I'm not a fast twitch guy. I was not fast and I can't jump. I'm short. And so it's really just the body awareness. I think kind of all the sports helped. There's so much cross stuff with them. I
Yeah.
think having done a lot of soccer and never actually did cross country running, always ran.
Yeah.
And that helped out the stamina for wrestling. It's really my only redeeming qualities are wrestling.
So you joined a little late. Any highlights you want to talk about team wise, individual wise from your high school career? What would those be for you?
Yeah, I think so having only done 2 seasons, it was interesting. I spent one of those primarily on JV, learning the very basics of wrestling. And then the next, having the opportunity to cut weight and wrestle off for an open spot on the varsity, and that was a highlight, I think, of my short wrestling career was getting that spot. Those are not always available
For sure,
on the
yeah.
Hastings team, and so I was proud to have made that work. Other highlights, we went to the state tournament. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Wrestling throughout the section, both individually and as a team, it was a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. We did take fifth, I think, your senior year. Is that the
Yeah.
year? Okay.
Yeah.
I always get the years mixed up now. Getting a little older. So I do believe we beat Minnetonka your senior year for fifth place. Is that correct? You think, or no? Because were you a senior with Eichmann, Isaac, and then, sorry, Austin, and then Jacob Bacon and those guys were all your senior grade? Yeah. March Light. Okay. Yeah. So I do believe, we beat Minnetonka.
Yeah.
That was a great duel. I don't know if you remember that or not, Jonah, but we were down big. Like we crushed them earlier, and then like we were down huge, and things were not going good. And all of a sudden, I think maybe it was TJ Ponger somewhere in the middle. We just got some good matches or good wins rolling. I know they forfeited the junior, which like took some momentum away from us because we just wanted to bring the momentum back to our side. TJ got a big win. I think Kyle wrestled a really tough kid, Kyle Erickson, and he might have lost. But I think from that point on, we pretty much wrecked them throughout the rest of the lineup and ended up blowing them out at the end. But for a while, it was a little sketchy. So it wasn't too.
I do remember that. I also remember sometime during that tournament, I'm forgetting what team it was against, but there's a stud around my weight class, and junior was around my weight class, and he actually had cut to he's basically my weight class, and we could bump me and him. He was a great wrestler. And I remember like there was this stud on the other team we were facing, and they ended up throwing him out and matched up with me. And basically, like my only goal was someone's only like we save the team points. I remember just fighting for that whole match. Didn't get pinned. That was a win for me because this is a great wrestler, and I can do is keep my defensive game.
I think that was Minnetonka now. Now that I think about it, because he did have this pretty good kid right around your weight class. And once again, talking about it, that's the cool part of wrestling, like you said. You came out later, you fought for the team, and then once again, once you get on the team, everybody's got a different role, right? So it's like sometimes for you going out there in the spot you're in, like it is to get a win, right? It's we got two kind of kids that are pretty average that we're going to throw out there, and sometimes it's crazy to think about it, and we always joke around, but so many of the high level duels come out to like two kids with 500 records duking it out together. So it's cool. And then, like you said, sometimes your job is just to not get pinned and not give up one team point. And it comes down to it. Like, we lost. I should say we won at the state tournament that 1 year, 2023, 33-32, because someone like Jack Bainbridge didn't get pinned. He fought off his back for 3 minutes and 55 seconds. So it's pretty wild. So it's just everybody's got a job to do it. It's always to win, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Okay, so you wrap up your high school career. Anything else you want to reflect on from your high school career? Wearing the blue and gold for Hastings.
One of the things I took away most from my wrestling career was like, I think more than any sport participated in it, it was a all in physical and mental experience for me. I, by choice, decided to cut a lot of weight to have a spot on the team. And that it really, for especially my senior year, for however many months, like it was everything I thought it
Yeah.
did. It was wrestling, diet, and I think that's such a good lesson. It sucked in the moment at times, but overall, like that's such a good lesson. Like you put your mind to something and you care enough about it, I
Yeah.
mean, you will be satisfied with your results. So I think it's a good lesson in putting your head down, and get through something.
Yeah, because usually that's my last question I ask our guests here, a lesson that they learned from wrestling that they really apply to their lives. Do you think that's something that's one of many lessons, right? And before we got recording, you talked about Mr. Vite's 2 keys for success,
Yeah.
positive mental attitude and a strong work ethic. That's 2 things that so many alumni take away from wrestling too. So when you talk about goal setting, you talked about working for a goal right there too and being hungry for it, not just passing by. And some kids are just given the spot, but you really had to work for it. I feel like that in combination with your work ethic, in combination with a positive attitude, really has set you up for success in life. Not saying you wouldn't, obviously, but
No,
but
I
it's
think,
just something that we
yeah,
do with
yeah.
passion.
Coach Vite's voice for sure, regularly in my head when things don't get fun. I specifically remember running sprints and just hitting that wall and turning around and just having just yeah, and like it stuck with me for sure, and it still does.
That's awesome. So you graduate from Hastings High School in 2016. Talk about your next couple steps, going to college, where you looked, what that journey was like for you.
Kind of, as we've been alluding to, I was an individual who spread myself thin as far as athletically. I was not blessed in any one area, and I was not going to do any athletics in college. So
They say the jack of all trades, master of none.
yeah,
Sometimes that, but once again, you dabbled in a lot, but obviously, yeah, that's kind of cool.
so I knew I wanted a larger school. I thought grew up a Wisconsin Badger fan, and that was really the only thing only spot I wanted to go to college. Ended up getting there, and I also applied down at Drake University down in another great school, but ended up going to Madison. Stayed there for my 4 years of undergrad. Was studying biology. Not really sure where it would take me, but I just kind of had an interest in medicine and science. While I was there, I started working as an EMT.
Yeah.
Started my senior year and then stayed after I graduated and stayed in Madison for a year working as an EMT.
Is that pretty wild or what?
It was yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think my training maybe wasn't the most robust as far as my EMT training. I totally felt unprepared. Get thrown into all these crazy scenarios and felt wholly unprepared. There was also a rush.
Yeah.
That.
And like
Yeah.
Madison's probably a big enough town where you're seeing a lot of stuff, where it's not
Yeah.
just a small town EMT where it's maybe not the most chaotic or a wide variety of things,
Right.
but Madison's not like Milwaukee where you spend some time, or
Yeah.
Minneapolis where you've seen some
Yeah.
some hardcore stuff too.
Yeah.
So pretty good.
This was a mix. And then right after, I spent almost 2 years in ENT Madison. Then I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and picked up a job ER at the big hospital there, at the big trauma center, working as an ER tech. And that's where I really decided, okay, I already knew I was wanting to apply to medical school, and I had actually already applied for one cycle, didn't get in, and I wanted to keep working in the ER setting. It was people in bad situations, but
Yeah.
also you got a whole team of people all working together with one common goal. It was so seamless, it seemed. You talk about team aspects that we see every day. It's a sports team or a healthcare team, and that was really cool to see. And I'd always known I wanted to go into medicine, but that was kind of my first time. Maybe I want to deal with these emergencies.
Yeah.
'Cause you can do a lot of good and see a lot of fun stuff.
You just mentioned it. So the first cycle you didn't get in, and
Yeah.
I know that's the crazy part. I think it's the funny part where I interviewed John Volk, Trey Rogers, and TJ Ponger. You guys were all different years, but it seems like you guys are all right in the same path right now, on the same page, because it just takes a while to get in. And I think it's really cool. John was a kind of same situation where he really had to build up his resume beforehand to really get in. Trey and TJ seemed like they got in pretty quickly.
Right.
So this ER tech was a really good way. Plus EMT, really good building blocks to get into med school and really look different on application.
It was. And the Trey and TJ are brainiacs, and they didn't have any problem. But John Volk and myself are human. We required a couple more years to get life experience. I certainly don't regret that. I think at the time it was frustrating, but never exciting to not meet your goals.
Yep.
But reflecting back, I wouldn't have changed it. I had so many great experiences. I learned how to live in the world as a working individual and also interact with patients on a daily basis and learned a ton of helpful stuff. And so I'm super glad I had that experience.
Any like feelings of uncertainty or like wanting to give up ever? Like the whole process too. It's like, am I really on the right path right now, or what am I doing?
For sure. A lot of my undergrad, I knew I liked learning. I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I knew the odds of applying to medical school are great. It's tough no matter where you want to go. And I knew that was like, if that's something I want to do, I have to buckle and spend some years working towards it. There was some doubt before I made my decision whether or not I really wanted to, even though I like it. And then once I made that decision, especially after not getting in that first year, then you get this time where it's, on one hand, all my chips are in one bucket. I've done so much for this one goal, I should keep going. But also a sense of, why didn't I make it? What am I lacking that all these other people have? And it's a tough system. It's easy to be mad at the system, but ultimately you just got to look inward and if it didn't work this time, what can I do? My resume better, or stand out a little more, or find my niche.
Yeah. So you keep on applying and like talking to Trey once again and those guys, it's 30-page applications, and it's obviously you're throwing a lot out there, but also you got to be conscious of money. It's $80-90 per application and stuff. Can't be spreading yourself too thin and keep on going. Talk about where you ended up here for med school and that kind of process too.
Yeah. So I didn't, for one reason or another, I didn't apply broadly throughout the country. I mainly held myself in the Midwest. I applied a little out west because I thought it might be interesting to live out there, but didn't apply to a ton of programs. I think that's probably why I didn't have the success right away, but ended up getting in and deciding to go down to Kansas City for medical school, knowing that it's Midwest. It's funny, growing up here, I always viewed it like, maybe it's, and then you go down there and they truly believe they're Midwest. But it's an interesting culture where the Midwest meets the South. And so I'm enjoying it down there, but that's where I'm at right now.
I'm figuring this out now too. It seems like it's a 4-year process. So talk about where you're at in the process. It sounds like the first 2 years are really book sense. It's just like college. You're learning and tests and learning and tests and all that kind of stuff. Year 3 seems like it opens up a little bit more where you get to pick, or you get a lot of variety of stuff. And then year 4 seems like you really hone in on where you want to go. So talk about your process within those.
No, that's spot on, really, in the traditional sense. And some schools are starting to get away from this, but I think it's still by far the most common. Your first 2 years are your pre-clinical. You're just in the classroom, lectures, all that sort of thing. And then your last 2 years are in the hospitals. Yeah, like you said, your third, just getting exposed to all the specialties, outpatients, family medicine, pediatrics, but then in the hospital, both surgeries, but just hospital medicine. And just getting a little bit of every experience to decide what you want to do, but also get that breadth that is important for no matter what you do. And then getting into your 4th year, you have to decide on a specialty. Because no matter what you're going to do after your 4 years of med school, you have residency, which is a minimum of 3 more years. And that's, you pick your specialty. So at the start of your 4th year, you start to do rotations in that and then apply in that direction. I'm going into emergency.
Okay.
Which you can, that experience prior to med school, and throughout my 3rd year, I always knew I liked that. I want to keep an open mind because maybe there's something amazing out there that I can encounter. And my problem always has been I loved everything, and which is a good problem to have.
It's like your
emergency
sports career. Yeah. So here we go again.
And that's nice because emergency, you see everything. You see everyone for any problem. And so that was solidifying in that I know I want to do the ER thing. And so the past handful of months, I've been bouncing around the country, actually going to different emergency departments that have residency programs, doing basically a month long audition for them. They kind of seeing how I'd fit there and what they think about me.
Because the last time I called you, I think you were in Oregon somewhere or
Yeah,
Washington,
yeah.
Oregon,
I was in Portland.
Portland. Okay. So you got a big city. Obviously, you're back in Minneapolis right now,
Yeah.
doing some stuff here. Before when you walked in here, you said New Mexico,
Yeah, yeah.
applied for a place down in Albuquerque. So just kind of all over the place here. And do you like those big areas too? And obviously, emergency, probably those big areas are where you're seeing most of the big stuff, the stuff you want to see versus those small towns. But think about what you want to do in the next few years. Obviously, you just said you got 4 more years of rotation and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And clinical, is that what it's called? Do you say residency? Okay, okay. And then, so think about where you want to land. Do you want to be in a big town, small town? Where do you want to be?
It's a question maybe dictated by where I land for residency, which maybe you know about this process, maybe some of the viewers at home don't. But there's the match. So you decide what specialty you want to do. You interview at a lot of places for residency. And then what really is you rank them. So, okay, I liked Hennepin County in Minneapolis #1, and then I liked Regions in St. Paul 2, and then I liked UW-Madison 3. And I they rank all my spots. And then all of the programs rank every person they interview in the order they want them.
Nice.
And then it all goes through an algorithm and it matches somewhere. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
just say where you go, but really
Yeah,
you don't.
yeah.
So, if you're not that attractive of an applicant, you might end up at your last choice
Yeah.
or not match.
Yeah.
So it ends up for that. But right now, like you mentioned, a lot of the great emergency training out there is just in the bigger cities where you get a lot more emergency. You get a lot of trauma, you get a lot of bad things happen. And as sad as it is, that's where you want to be learning. You can get your learn in a safe environment where you're dealing with all that craziness. So when you're on your own, you feel comfortable.
That's awesome.
Yeah. As far as like geographically, all my family's here. At least for the time being for residency, willing to look else.
That's awesome. And I know obviously many people listen to this probably know that your dad is a doctor as well. He does family practice. So that didn't jive for you, but he obviously a good mentor and a good role model to get into medicine, but the family practice just isn't for you.
That was actually the other thing I considered because mentioning liking everything, that's truly the general. You get everything. Problem with me is I like the emergency aspect of bouncing from thing to thing to thing. I like a little bit the thrill of scary situations, but also you get your hands dirty doing some procedures.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect.
That's awesome.
No hate to it wasn't for me.
So, Jonah, we talked about how you got into wrestling. We talked about you going to college here for your undergrad. Talked about med school. We talked about a lesson learned from wrestling.
Yeah.
Anything else I'm missing here? The last thing I always do is just really turn the microphone over to our guest. Any shout outs you want to give? Any questions I didn't ask yet? Anything you want to recap better? We flew through a lot of stuff here. Like I said, the microphone is yours and you can just go for it. Anything you want to do, spitball, give some shout outs to your brother Sam or cousin Eric or anything you want to do, you can go for it.
Two guys. I had a residency interview this morning that it took from Eric's.
Oh, really?
I had to make a shift right after it had up in us. He lives only a block away. Shout out to Eric and thanks for that. Shout out to Sam. He's still trying to get Tim to convert away from the wrestling part, which will never happen.
Yes. Yeah, Sam, he's a great guy. He's a talker and he's doing a great job at his company here. Yeah, he's a great guy.
There's a shout outs within the program. We talked a little bit about lessons learned, and I'm going to echo most other Hastings Wrestling alumni and shout out Coach Paul White in his words of wisdom. With the two things he always impressed upon us was that you can really accomplish anything you want with a positive mental attitude and a good work ethic. And that's been something I've kept in mind. There's definitely a lot of times where I don't want to do what I'm doing, and it's good to keep in mind. You just keep digging, and things will turn around.
Perfect. Like I said, anything else that you want to recap? High school, college, med school, anything else that you're thinking about?
To the younger viewers out there,
Yeah.
I do think throughout reflecting over the past handful of years, as I'm talking a lot about myself recently, doing interviews, kind of realizing where my passions have been throughout life. When you're in high school, it's you're so busy, you're
Yeah.
spread so thin, and then you get into college, if you're going to college, and you're similarly very busy, and you try to get thrust into a path. You go in this major and you get this degree, and you get this job. What I've been realizing is like throughout both mainly academically, but through in a lot of areas of my life, up until med school, I really just met the thresholds I needed to get to the next
Gotcha.
step,
Okay.
right?
I
I
see what
got
you're
my
saying.
passing grades to graduate. I was in extracurriculars because I enjoyed them a little bit. But then in med school, I really found like an interest in learning about the body
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like teaching other people about it. And that's something that I'm for sure going to keep
Mhm.
carrying forward to my next step. And not that that's like everyone's passion, but I feel like that is out there for a lot of people waiting
Yeah.
to find that type of thing, you
Yeah.
know?
I hear you. So no matter what your passion is, really stay active in it. And once again, I think that's
You know, I think keep plugging away
Yeah.
because you'll find your passion.
Yeah.
You might not, you might just keep doing one foot in front of the other, and that's fine, but be open because you
Yeah.
might find your passion in this area that you least expect. And that's what happened to me. I always thought I was going to do this like as a career, and it's totally fine too. I have come to really love it. And that's out there for a lot of people too in a lot of areas.
And I think you've already said it, but I think that's the cool thing about wrestling because the skills that we learn in the room, obviously we're not learning about medicine, right? We're not learning about electrical work. We're not learning about concrete. We're not learning about anything like that. But we are learning life skills. We are learning how to keep a positive attitude when you don't get into med school the first year. We're learning a positive attitude when things don't go the right way. We're learning about failures. We're learning about setbacks. And on the other side of it is that work ethic, right? It's just keep plugging away at things, right? And I think maybe you just said it too, where in high school you just had the status quo, right?
Yeah.
And then you really had to knuckle down here in med school and really say, hey, I got to use this work ethic that I developed in high school and really tap into it. So I think that's the cool thing about wrestling. We're not learning those life specific or the maybe job specific skills.
Yeah.
We're really learning everything that's going to be successful for whatever we put our passion to in life.
It gives you the attitude to succeed in whatever you set your mind to, which is really all you can ask for.
For sure. Awesome. Anything else, Jonah? Yeah, thanks.